Masoud Pezeshkian wins Iran's presidential runoff election. China leads the patents race for generative AI. Japan top court rules forced sterilization unconstitutional. Europe slaps tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. Heavy rains trigger landslides in Nepal. Tibetans celebrate the Dalai Lama's 89th birthday.
Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. It's Monday, July 8th, and here are your top stories. Reformist candidate Masoud Pezeshkian has called for cooperation, empathy, and trust after being declared the winner of Iran's runoff presidential election Saturday. The win for reformists is a turn from the hardline presidency of Ebrahim Raisi, who was killed in a helicopter crash in May. Pezeshkian bested hardliner Saeed Jalili by promising to reach out to the West and ease enforcement on the country's mandatory headscarf law after years of sanctions and protests squeezing the Islamic Republic.
Pezeshkian promised no radical changes to Iran's Shiite theocracy in his campaign and has long held Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei as the final arbiter of state matters. However, even Pezeshkian's modest aims will be challenged by an Iranian government still largely controlled by hardliners, the ongoing Israel-Hamas war in Gaza, and Western fears over Tehran enriching uranium to near weapons-grade levels. Supreme Leader Khamenei urged Pezeshkian to continue on the path set by his predecessor, Raisi, but thanked election organizers and celebrated a free and transparent election. Authorities declared Pezeshkian the winner with 16.3 million votes to Jalili's 13.5 million. Iran's Interior Ministry said 30 million people voted in an election held without internationally recognized monitors.
A new United Nations report showed Thursday China dominates the global race in generative artificial intelligence patents, filing more than 38,000 patents from 2014 to 2023. That's 6 times more than those filed by US-based inventors. Generative AI is a type of artificial intelligence that allows users to generate content such as text, images, music, audio, and videos. Geographically, China leads with 38,210 inventions, far surpassing the US, South Korea, Japan, and India. According to the report, generative AI patents currently make up 6% of total AI patents in the world.
China has sought to catch up with ChatGPT owner OpenAI and US tech titans Microsoft, Alphabet's Google and Amazon in the development of large language models, LLM, after being late to the game. ChatGPT took the world by storm in November 2022 for its ability to generate human-like responses to users' prompts. Last year, Chinese tech giants including Alibaba and Baidu launched their own LLMs to challenge their US counterparts. In a bid to cement its presence in the global tech race, China launched a 3-year action plan in May to strengthen standards in AI chips and generative AI and build up national computing power, aimed at driving technological and economic development. Image and video data dominated the general AI patents with 17,996 inventions, followed by text and speech or music.
In a landmark decision, Japan's Supreme Court ordered the government on Wednesday to pay suitable compensation to about a dozen victims who were forcibly sterilized under a now-defunct eugenics protection law, which was designed to eliminate offspring of people with disabilities. An estimated 25,000 people were sterilized from the 1950s to 1970s without consent to prevent the birth of poor-quality descendants under the law, described by plaintiffs' lawyers as the biggest human rights violation in the post-war era in Japan. The court said the 1948 eugenics law was unconstitutional and rejected the government's claim that the 20-year statute of limitations should prevent it from paying restitution.
Wednesday's decision involved 11 of the 39 plaintiffs who fought at 5 lower courts across Japan to get their case heard by the country's top court. Cases involving the other litigants are still pending. In 2019, in response to several lower court rulings holding it accountable, the government offered one-time redress money of 3.2 million yen, $19,800, to each plaintiff. However, the Supreme Court declared Wednesday that the compensation was insufficient. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida expressed sincere regret and heartfelt apology to the victims and said he hoped to meet the plaintiffs to apologize in person. Kishida said the government would consider a new compensation scheme.
The European Union is imposing sharply higher customs duties on electric vehicles imported from China. EVs are the latest flashpoint in a broader trade dispute over Chinese government subsidies and Beijing's burgeoning exports of green technology to the 27-nation bloc. The higher duties go into effect on Friday, pending a final decision in 4 months' time. After an 8-month investigation, the European Commission found that companies making electric cars in China benefit from massive government help. That means they can undercut rivals in the EU on prices, take a big market share, and threaten European jobs.
It announced the higher duties on June 12th, and they go into effect on Friday. The duties are provisional, meaning they will be totaled up but won't need to be paid until they're confirmed by a vote of EU governments before November 2nd. The EU will only collect the duties if there's a further finding that the European auto industry would have suffered material harm without them. That gives the EU and the Chinese government time to negotiate. Talks have been held between Valdis Dombrovskis, the EU Commissioner for the Economy, and Chinese Trade Minister Wang Wentao, as well as at the level of technical experts. Chinese-built electric cars jumped from 3.9% of the EV market in 2020 to 25% by September 2023, in part by unfairly undercutting EU industry prices.
Officials said on Sunday that heavy rains triggered landslides and flash floods, killing at least 11 people in the last 36 hours in Nepal and blocking key highways and roads. A police spokesperson said 8 people were missing, either washed away by floods or buried in landslides, while 12 others were injured and being treated in hospitals. In southeastern Nepal, the Kashi River, which causes deadly floods in the eastern Indian state of Bihar almost every year, was flowing above the danger level.
In hill-ringed Kathmandu, several rivers have overflowed their banks, flooded roads, and inundated many houses. Local media showed people wading through waist-deep water or residents using buckets to empty their houses. At least 50 people across Nepal have died in landslides, floods, and lightning strikes since mid-June when the annual monsoon rains started. Hundreds of people die every year in landslides and flash floods that are common in mostly mountainous Nepal during the monsoon season, which normally starts in mid-June and continues through mid-September. In the northeastern Indian state of Assam, floods have killed dozens and displaced thousands of people in the past few days.
Hundreds of mostly exiled Tibetans gather in India's hillside town of Dharamshala to celebrate the 89th birthday of the spiritual leader of Tibetan Buddhism, the Dalai Lama, on Saturday. The Dalai Lama has made the hillside town his headquarters since fleeing Tibet after a failed uprising against Chinese rule in 1959. Representatives of the Tibetan government in exile also reside there. Volunteers distributed Indian sweets to exiled Tibetan Buddhist nuns, while teachers helped children with their makeup as they prepare to perform traditional dances.
The main celebrations unfolded in the Suglagkang Temple within the spiritual leaders' complex. Tibetan and Buddhist flags adorned poles and railings. Inside the temple, a colorful 3-tiered cake was cut, and schoolchildren sang, "Happy Birthday, His Holiness." Artists from the Tibetan Institute of Performing Arts, dressed in traditional attire, played drums and bagpipes inside the complex, drawing cheers and applause from the crowd. Indian and Tibetan flags were hoisted alongside the playing of both national anthems. Tibetan and Indian officials sat on a slightly raised platform, surrounded by photos of the Dalai Lama, including some from his childhood, hung on pillars around them. However, the Dalai Lama was absent, as he is currently in the U.S. undergoing a knee replacement.
The answer for last Friday was C, sharply. Environmentalists were sharply critical of the policy for its failure to encourage conservation. Did you answer correctly? Now let's delve into the news of Europe slaps tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. Number 1, subsidy, 补贴、补助金、津贴. European farmers are planning a massive demonstration against farm subsidy cuts. Number 2, undercut, 削价竞争，以低于竞争对手的价格做生意. We were able to undercut our European rivals by 5%. Number 3, provisional, 临时的、暂时的. If you have never held a driving license before, you should apply for a provisional license. Next, we have a multiple choice question for everyone to practice. Which answer would you choose? You can write your answer in the comment section. The correct answer will be announced tomorrow. And that's all for today's Funday News. Be sure to tune into Funday News from Monday to Friday and click the link below to join Funday for free. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I'll see you next time.